Welcome to Burnt Out. The Burnt Out podcast shares the stories of firefighters, emergency personnel, and other first responders around the world to create a pathway to save lives. The stories you will hear are real and may be disturbing to some listeners. Listener discretion is advised. And now I'd like to introduce you to your hosts for Burnt Out, Skip O and Jeff the Old Guy.
Thanks, Sean, for that introduction. And I'd like to thank all the listeners for tuning in. Me and my team, we thought since the holidays are coming up, we would like to talk about suicide prevention and PTSD with first responders. You know, not only it's tough to take those runs all through the year, but when it comes to the holidays, it seems like the run load picks up a little bit because the general public get depressed, they drink a lot, or they die by suicide, or other things happen. So we took a clip from episode 22. Derek Robinson, he was a California lifeguard, firefighter, and author, and he's a survivor of some suicide attempts. Derek Robinson shared his story on Facebook, one share, and he got an overwhelming positive response. So he decided to write a book, and it's called Continue. And it's a good book. If you haven't seen it or haven't heard about it, check it out and read it. It's a good read. But before we get going, we're going to play about a minute or two of his clip, and then we'll go into and talk about PTSD and suicide prevention.
You know, I lived the dream of a firefighter. I never grew up dreaming of becoming a firefighter, but once I found myself in the fire service, it was a dream. I remember every morning smiling on my way to work, just couldn't wait to, go help and the things we got to do. It was just a pure joy. And over time, and it wasn't recognizable to me, it started to become more of a burden. I can remember before I realized I got help, just getting so frustrated when we got a call and just not wanting to go and just feeling like I was interrupted, even though I might have been working on something personal at the station as opposed to, training or drilling at the station. And I just remember having this very negative adverse reaction, and looking back, that wasn't what I loved about the job when I first signed up. And I slowly kind of fell deeper and deeper into this darkness. And, I'd become aware of, the Stamp Out the Stigma campaign from the IAFF and CPF because I was a union president for 14 years and really bought in. And I think a lot of that stemmed from my inner psyche telling me like, hey, dummy, wake up, it's you. So I really became an advocate because I didn't want to take that call that one of my members had chosen suicide as their best option. So fast forward, and I'm in the middle of it, and I don't even recognize it. I mean, I swam in college, and I continue to swim every day, just about today. And I not to brag, but for example, I still hold a record for a 2-mile open water swim. There were days in the pool that I couldn't even swim 25 yards without feeling like I needed to scramble out of the pool and catch my breath. Looking back now, fully realizing that was anxiety related to PTSD, but in the middle of it, I didn't even recognize it. And that's the scary part is even in the middle of it, it's so subtle, you just never realize it. And so that's what makes it so hard for others to realize it and see it in someone else's life. It's those subtle changes that we don't see every day.
All right. Everybody heard his clip. Like I said, he's a good guy. Read, his book, Continue. It goes more in depth about his story, and you can listen to the rest of this podcast if you'd like to. Just go to burnoutpodcast.org if you're not already on here, and you can listen to it there. For me personally, I've had similar situation like Derek. So is all our guests. Most all our guests that were first responders has suffered from PTSD or had the thoughts of suicide in their lifetime, even before they were first responders. With Derek, it just kind of slowly built on him. through the years, just like it does everything else. You put a 5-pound weight on when you're working out on the bar, then you keep adding 5 pounds and 5 pounds, and finally it gets too hard for you to lift off yourself. And we're too, our egos or our mental health, we don't want to ask for help to help spot us. Pretty much like life. We get all these things on our shoulders and in our minds, and we're either too embarrassed to ask for help, or it's just too hard for us to, for whatever reason. And that's too much for us to carry. I think with Derek and myself, when we got help, like with Derek, his friend was worried about him and went and knocked on the door and checked on him. You got to learn how to watch for those signs. And there's different signs when it comes to suicide prevention. One good resource, you can see a lot of signs, is American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. That's afsp.org. You can go on there and check out some signs. And then signs of PTSD, you can also go, Google that for PTSD. But some of the signs when, you get agitated really easy, your nervousness or anxiety, problems of concentration or thinking, problems with memory, headaches, depression, crying spells, suicide thoughts, attempts, mood swings, and it goes on, and I've had all of those for myself. I was on the fire department for 33 years. I went through my, got on, was going to be save these people. My first 2 weeks of the job, I was doing CPR on a guy, had a wreck, had a heart attack, crashed his car. Then I was doing CPR. I could heard the ribs crack. And then I remember going to take him to the ER. And I remember what a nurse said, that day. That's been over 30, that's been about 35 years ago. And then we had stabbings and shootings. That first go around, which was my first, of working, and that set the tone for my career. And I never really talked about it. I know I started my coping mechanism. I started drinking, and then I started using drugs, cocaine, and then I was thinking about killing myself. I'm 58 years old. My 2 brothers that were police officers in our town didn't think I was going to make it to 30 years old. And I didn't either. But I was fortunate. I wasn't that one time go to treatment, go get help, and it was done. I needed an ego deflation. So it took me 11 years in and out of treatment, talking to doctors, psychiatrists, being on medication, to finally get the right help. I finally got the right help I needed for my addiction, but I never worked on the PTSD part of it. I thought that 12-step program would take care of it, and it did. And I was seeing a therapist, but I never went into deep down to my job and my career until after about a few years before I retired. Ended up some situations happened. I had to go back to treatment to a treatment center on the East Coast for firefighters. And I was there for 42 days. Even though I stayed clean and sober, I was thinking about killing myself because I just couldn't get rid of those images in my head that when I laid my head down on the bed, I would think of those scenes. And I won't go into detail about those scenes. All you that are first responders know what I'm talking about. But I finally got help. I did EMDR. And you can Google that up because I'll hack it to death if I try to. EMDR it's eye movement. It desensitizes you from that trauma. And then there's brain spotting, similar to EMDR. I had done both of those, and I continue to do those. They help me. Right now, I'm in a good place. But I know for me and a lot of people, when it comes up to the holidays and stuff, especially if you're alone or you're going through divorce or you're in your addiction or your mental health, man, it's tough. That's just one more weight you're adding on to that bar. Oh man, we got more runs. People are traveling more. Just all kinds of different things happen. We want to make sure all of you get the help that you need for suicide prevention, or if you're having a problem, dial 988. That's a 24-hour, 7 days a week helpline that somebody will be on the other side and direct you what you need to do. And just so you just need to vent. They don't take your name. They don't try to trace where you're at. So that's from 988. That's the national hotline for suicide prevention. Also, you can go on the Worldwide Peer Support. .org, and there's 3 support Zoom meetings, Tuesday, Thursdays, and Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can jump on there if you need some help or just listen. You don't have to talk. You can just jump on there, and they got a topic. But if you're in dire straits, they'll do a breakout room for you. Or you can email us at burntout.org, and we can assist with you there. But if you listen to the other podcasts, not just Derek's, you'll notice Jason Saltel is one that connected me with Derek. In his book, he wrote about similar things for him, that he tried to bear this life himself, and he needed some help, and he got some help in another place. And don't let your ego, or don't let that fear block you from getting the help that you need. Believe me, it almost killed me, and a lot of first responders, men and women around the United States and England have similar, and the world have similar things. There is help out there for you. You're not alone, and people do care about you. Don't believe in that lie to think the world would be better off without you, because that's just not true. It's a lie. But if you need us, call us. We appreciate you listening to us. If nobody told you, we love you, and we'll love you until you can love yourself. Feel free to email us anytime at burnoutpodcast.org. For tonight, all of you, go home. Shut your phones off and your radios off and get some sleep. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Burnout. Burnout is brought to you by the Worldwide Peer Support. You can visit Burnout Podcast at burntoutpodcast.org or visit Worldwide Peer Support at worldwidepeersupport.org. Your hosts for the Burnt Out Podcast are Skip O and Jeff the Old Guy. Produced by Sean P. Neal. A MyPodcast.media production.